Mr. Boyd, he feels like we should keep the meeting on the 18th because both he and I both agree that we don't see the meetings that would be held earlier in that day going past 5 or 6 p.m. And it would just be easier if we maintain the same schedule as opposed to trying to move the meeting to another date or to another location. But we wanted to present it to the board and get your feedback as well.
Okay. Any discussion from any of the board members about this?
My preference would be to maintain the scheduled date as is. I'll be traveling that following Wednesday.
Anyone else?
Just, we would have the awareness that we might be inconvenienced by having to start a little later if the other meetings go over, but I don't think we should change it either.
Mr. Weems, you have any? Okay. Oh. Okay. Mr. Fennell, do you think it's possible for us, I mean, I can even do it, check with Ms. Bibiano, like, earlier in the day, get some kind of, timeline of whether we'll be able to meet at 6 or if we have to push it back to 6:30?
Yeah, I'll coordinate with Ms. Bibiano and let her know the board's decision, and we can accommodate that. My guess is that if they're meeting, whatever council's doing during the day, they're going to be doing that throughout the day. So by 5:30 at the latest, they should be wrapping up. But she didn't want she wanted to let us know in case we wanted to make other arrangements. So I'll let her know that the board will continue, and we'll just plan to meet at 6 or as soon as they wrap up.
Okay, that sounds good. Tell her there aren't any other arrangements for us to make.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now on to auditor's report, and I'll move pretty quickly through this. You've all received the packet, so I'll just go straight into the cases for discussion unless you have any specific questions about anything else in the first part of my report. So the first case is 2025-00137107. And this case involved the SNUD unit and an action that the officers had taken. My concern was not with the use of force that was used. My concern came out of the fact that while viewing the body-worn camera footage of the officers, I noticed that anywhere between 2 minutes up to about 2 minutes and 39 seconds, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, the officers seemed to all turn their body-worn cameras off. And so when I reached back to APD to get some information about this, I was provided a SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, number 14-24, and it is a specific SOP designed for special considerations for SNUD personnel. And in it, it does allow and discusses certain circumstances for which the SNUD personnel are allowed to disengage their cameras during an incident. When I reviewed that SOP, subsequently, I still reached the decision that they were in violation of the APD policy P-2023-031, which is the policy surrounding the body-worn camera usage and video recording usage. And in that mobile recording device procedure, it specifically states that, well, in the SOP, it specifically states that the APD policy is to be followed as written, and it provides only limited clarification for narrow investigative circumstances. In this instance, there was no documentation that SNUD personnel had needed to disengage their cameras for investigative purposes or any of the special circumstances allotted within the policy or the SOP, and they did not reactivate their body-worn camera once whatever alleged investigative purpose had concluded. So my recommendation is twofold. One, a policy and training recommendation that to reinforce the body-worn camera requirements through training, emphasizing that handcuffing alone does not conclude an incident, and that the supervisors have responsibility on scene to verify and make sure that body-worn camera activation is sustained during active incidents. And then I had some disciplinary recommendations for the officers involved, and the 4 detectives. Well, let's see, the three detectives that were recommended 1-day suspension without pay for the violation of the body-worn camera policy, and for the supervisor, the sergeant, a 2-day suspension without pay, and for the lieutenant who reviewed the incident and conducted the use of force review and analysis, the recommendation is a 1-day suspension without pay or other discipline consistent with supervisory accountability standards. And so I'll leave it at that for right now and take any questions from the board.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Fennell?
Mr. Fennell, has this been as you've been reviewing camera footage, is this an ongoing problem where the cameras are being shut off too soon? And have you any other observations about it apart from this incident?
I've yet to determine if this is a systemic issue or if this is just a one-time incident. I will be looking into that and looking to see if there's a pattern and if this is a more widespread issue. But for right now, it seems to be a single incident occurrence.
All right. I will vote to accept the report as is. I don't necessarily agree with the disciplinary recommendations, but I agree with your observation that something needs to happen to bring compliance. And I just, again, we're not a disciplinary body, and so you're recommending this. I just don't necessarily agree with the severity of the discipline, but I do understand the importance of compliance.
Mr. Fennell, I believe that this might be the first recommendation that's been brought to the board for that involved a suspension of any period without pay. Can you just provide what the rationale is there? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that the board has voted on or that any report has submitted that finding and recommendation. And so just to follow up on Mr. Krebs' statement, can you just give a little bit more insight in terms of the rationale, but also from your perspective, actions that may warrant such action, like by APD themselves?
Okay. Well, we are not, and I am not, obviously, in a position to issue discipline. However, I do issue recommendations. And in this instance, I felt it was appropriate to specify a level of discipline. Now, the final decision on whether any of this will occur obviously lands within the chief's office. But my rationale behind this was because absent any discipline, the officers may reasonably conclude that body-worn camera compliance is optional once physical control is achieved. So the discipline is necessary, as in any instance, to correct behavior and reinforce that evidentiary and accountability obligations extend through the entirety of the call. So whether it's a one-day suspension, whether it's a written reprimand, whether it's another level of disciplinary action, I feel that this should be addressed at the detective level, so that they understand what the policy, how the policy is meant to operate and function. But then also at the supervisory level, because supervisors have a greater responsibility to make sure that their subordinates are doing and following the policies. And then with respect to the lieutenant, this incident was reviewed, and while there may be an SOP in place that permits for investigative or other legitimate purposes the detectives to mute their body worn, it does not specify that they are to turn their body worn cameras off entirely, and the supervisor did not catch this. So again, I understand, what our role is, but I do believe that I'm within my rights to and responsibility to make such a recommendation. I've made other recommendations in the past without maybe specifying a specific discipline, but made disciplinary recommendations. So I didn't see that this was anything different.
Thank you. I really appreciate that background, context, and insight in terms of what informed your decision for this recommendation.
Mr. Fennell, do you know if whether or not internally at the police department they have been disciplined?
No, they have not. This was not addressed by anyone. So this is the first it'll be raised.
Okay, thank you.
Auditor Fennell, I am grappling with the severity of the discipline since it's coming before the board, and that makes me apprehensive of voting.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
I am grappling with the severity of the discipline. Do you have?
You saying you do not agree?
I think it's harsh for a first time. Did you do any other research or any studies? Speak to anybody in neighboring communities with regard to body camera footage and how they handled a similar situation?
To answer that specific question, no. But my rationale, like I stated, is this body-worn camera usage is not new. These aren't new to Akron. This isn't, a new rollout where officers may or may not understand how these cameras work. They've had cameras, and they've been doing this for quite some time. So at some point, while you may think this is harsh discipline, at some point, you basically have to, if they're not following the policy, then you have to address that in such a way that they will follow it, that they have to understand this is what you're going to have to do. This isn't a mistake. This isn't, I forgot, I didn't know how. These were deliberate turning the camera off. And so, and from a supervisor's perspective, one of the issues that I've found is that, an officer is only going to do what their supervisor allows them to do. So if the supervisor is allowing this, then the supervisor should be dealt with as well. Now, that's my opinion. Obviously, police department may or may not agree with that. We may have a different discussion. And I'm recommending discipline, and I've provided the rationale for why it is. It's not just arbitrary. It is based off of the fact that, this is not operating these cameras and using these cameras and using all the tools properly and following the policies is not an arbitrary decision that the officers get to make. Those are the rules and the policy. And when a new rule and policy comes out, then as officers learn and get accustomed to it, there will be mistakes made in those situations, and that consideration should be made on how and what discipline looks like. All discipline doesn't have to be a suspension or anything like that. You can call it discipline and it's just retraining or counseling. That's fine and appropriate. And I didn't feel it was appropriate in this instance, for retraining or counseling when these were very deliberate acts. And remember, if as a board you're going to decide if you want to move this forward to the mayor and to the council, are you deciding that the act was a violation? You may disagree with my recommendation, but is the act a violation? Because at the end of the day, the mayor and the police department are going to make their decision on what they do with the recommendation and how they move forward. They may not agree with the discipline as I stated. They may agree that it's something else, but they may agree that it's a violation or not. I don't know. But this is what I'm saying it is.
Mr. Fennell, very well said and very well explained. Thank you. And I tend to agree with you because, body-worn cameras, there's a reason why that whole issue came up when it came up. Is to protect both the police and the citizens that they serve. Now, if we're going to start being a society that starts ignoring the fact that police officers can turn their body-worn cameras on and off as they please, depending upon the situation that they're facing, then it's all a moot point. It's all null and void to even have them. So there has to be some types of restrictions in place when they're not turned on, and they should be. There has to be some type of repercussions for that. Because it's just like kids, you let them get away with something the first time, they're going to do it again, and it might be worse the second time around. So they have to have some guidelines, and they have to have the same discipline that they expect the citizens to have that they're out here, protecting and serving. They expect citizens to have a certain amount of discipline when they encounter them, and we expect for them to have the discipline enough to turn their body-worn cameras on. So I agree with you.
Well, thank you. And in my report, I anticipated there would be some questions and concerns. And so I also, with each recommendation, I tried to include a rationale and what the impact would be if there was no discipline, and then what that recommended discipline would be. So this wasn't just like I said, it wasn't just an arbitrary decision. It wasn't just a random decision. It was one where, I tried to walk through it and put in the report what I was thinking, so that as it moves forward to not only the board, but to the mayor and to the chief and to the community, you understand what I was thinking during this process.
Well, I certainly appreciate your rationale. I appreciate the report. And if no one else has any questions, I'd like to make a motion to accept the auditor's report.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Williams?
I agree with you. That's it.
Mr. Richard Krabs?
With my comments earlier taken, I accept the report.
Yes.
Mr. Costa? Ms. Bernie Hawkins? Ms. Elton?
No.
Okay, Anna Skevich, yes. The report passes. Okay, Mr. Fennell, next.
Okay, thank you. And I couldn't hear everything, but for the record, is that 7 yes and 1 no?
1 no, correct.
Okay, thank you. And on to the next report. It is Case number 2025-001-40266. In this report, this incident involved an officer that was off duty on his way home, and he observed someone driving, looked like they had been in a car accident, and they were swerving all over the road. The officer observed this as he was leaving out of Akron and heading into Uniontown, and the person pulled over, and the officer was in his personal vehicle. After just getting off work, he pulls behind the person, and he's on the phone with the Uniontown Police Department dispatch. The officer and the man in the vehicle, the man in the vehicle gets out and confronts the officer, and the officer, gets out, and there's a dispute. At some point, the officer told the man to get back and produced a handgun. The man stated that he was going to get his gun and challenged the off-duty officer, stating that you're not a police officer. It can be heard over the cell phone that the officer says, I surely am. About this time, a Uniontown police officer, on-duty officer, arrives. There's a physical altercation between as they try to arrest the man, and the man is ultimately placed in handcuffs. Now, my concern was that the off-duty officer was not readily identifiable as an off-duty police officer. Mm-hmm. He was wearing a hoodie jacket. He didn't have any badges or any patches or anything that readily identified him as a police officer, off-duty or on duty. So the concern was the taking action as an off-duty officer, and how that could have gotten and gone really bad, especially since the other person did have a handgun in their car as well. Mm-hmm. So my recommendations. My recommendations, because I had no issue with the use of force. The use of force was objectively reasonable. My recommendations were that there be an off-duty identification requirement where, at some point you clearly state or show your badge or state, you're an off-duty police officer. Some training on limits on off-duty firearm implication, producing a firearm, particularly if you're not readily identified as a police officer. That could create another situation where someone just thinks you're a regular citizen pulling a gun on them, which goes to officer-created jeopardy. And then training to be a witness first and only intervene when necessary. So basically be a good witness for on-duty officers and only intervene when, it's a life or death situation. And that's pretty much it. So I'll take any questions from everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell, for that very thorough report. That was my first question in all this is why didn't an officer just call Uniontown Police? He said, hey, and identify himself as an Akron police officer. Hey, I'm in your jurisdiction. I see this car swerving on the road. This is the plate number, blah, 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 blah. You might want to send somebody out here. And that way he could not have gotten himself involved to the point he did at all. It never would have happened. I understand, once you're a police officer, believe me, I understand your instincts kick in, whether you have your uniform on or not. But your common sense should also kick in. This could have gone all kinds of wrong, especially since he wasn't identifying himself as a police officer in plain clothes. he had a gun, the citizen had a gun. This could have just gone sideways in so many different bad ways. So I would recommend that when they're off duty and they see something going on, that's not something that they literally need to jump into, meaning somebody don't have a gun to someone's head. You know, if you're in another jurisdiction, just call the police from that's in that jurisdiction. Let them handle it. Let the officers who have the uniforms on, who are working, come out and deal with the issue. That's what I have to say about it. I mean, that was stupid. Sorry.
Well, he did call, and he was on the line with the dispatch from Uniontown and he was following the guy, giving a description of which way he was going and what he was doing, but then the guy just stopped, and now the officer's there, and the guy got out of his car, looked at the damage to his vehicle, then approached the officer and telling him to mind his own business. So, and all the while, the officer was still on the phone with dispatch, and they were on their way. The officers were on their way to the location. But he did do exactly what you said, calling it in. It's just that when the guy stopped and approached him, he had to make a decision to either engage or back off or, drive away.
Okay, well, that makes more sense. I didn't hear, I think you left that part out, but you said his car was damaged. Was there an accident?
He hit something. I don't think they ever determined what he hit, but his right front tire and the whole wheel well was just destroyed. At the point he stopped, he was driving on the steel rim. So he hit something, and he appeared to be intoxicated.
Yes. Okay, well, with respect to, now that you've cleared up what my criticism was, with respect to the fact that there was an altercation because the guy did get out of his car, and I think most of us here know, if you know anything about alcohol, that gives people what I always call graveyard courage. So he probably would never even walked up to the officer had he not been intoxicated. So I accept your report as given, and I concur with your recommendations. Anybody else have anything to say? Okay.
This is a pretty good report. I don't think that there was much more that the officer could have done, but what I see the value in this report is the highlight that the identification deficiency in APD policy presents a vulnerability requiring corrective guidance. So not necessarily saying that what this officer did was wrong, but more so highlighting the fact that the lack of APD policy around such an item could create, and clarity around how to address such situations could create situations where officers kind of put themselves in peril. So based upon that aspect, I think I'd like to accept this report and make a motion to accept it unless there's any additional comments.
Second. Mr. Weems?
Yeah. Accept.
Mr. Krabs? Mr. Costa?
Yes.
Ms. Bernie Hawkins? Yes. Ms. Elton?
Yes.
Anna Skevich, yes. Thank you, Mr. Fennell.
Thank you. On to our monthly recommendations. Had a conversation and meeting with Mr. Craig Morgan, and we are going to, we being Mr. Morgan, Ms. Myers, and I, are going to begin meeting monthly as we look at the recommendations that I make that don't require a specific response from the administration. Every report we have some level of a recommendation or something that we might want to point out. And so the three of us are going to begin meeting monthly so that we can begin to look at those and work through those to help bring along some solutions, whether that's a training guide, a policy amendment, or, whatever, to implement and see how we can bring about what we call the low-hanging fruit, and start to look at some things that aren't directly tied to uses of force, but could be tied to other systemic things that we see that could help make policing better in Akron. So we'll begin, our first meeting will be next Friday, and we'll meet monthly, and we'll be able to report out on at that progress in future meetings.
Okay, thank you. And I believe Mr. Morgan is here, so if you would like to, introduce yourself to all the board members. We have some newbies here that weren't here the last time you were in one of our meetings.
No, thank you. I'm not going to take up too much time because we started late, but to reintroduce myself, I interviewed many of you. Formerly, I was the chief prosecutor here at the city of Akron. I've been with the city for almost 28 years. I recently transitioned. I'm now the chief of public safety. It really is just the director of public safety. We've always had that position. We've rebranded it a little bit because we also have some, in addition to overseeing and directing police and fire divisions, we also now have an emergency management office and some other specialized folks that are dedicated to public safety, like recruitment and retention and strategy. So yeah, it's not exactly what I expected at this point in time in my career, but oversight and working with the police has been a passion for my entire career. I've had discussions with you, as many of you, the originals in here, I was with you a lot in those early weeks, and I think you got a feeling of where I come from on these issues. So very excited to sit down with Ms. Myers and Mr. Fennell. We are going to try to tackle all those recommendations in which the auditors both concur in the findings, whether it's to a complaint investigation or a use of force investigation. And then, of course, by doing that, we free up the police to really take a hard look at those reports in which they disagree with the conclusion, right? And they can really focus in on them. But no, really looking forward to the opportunity working with them. Really looking forward to the opportunity with working with all of you. And I've got some exciting ideas for the future, how we can partner up. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm always available, so.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Morgan?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do you want to circle back to governance or go on through finance, or how do you want to?
I think we're good on the governance items, so.
Finance is next.
Okay, so there's only one agenda item this evening. It's with respect to the 2026 Office of Independent Police Auditor budget and CPOB budget. I want to circle back to the discussion that we had January 21 at our last meeting with respect to the budget that was tabled, and want to, again, as a recap, we are presenting the budget that was distributed among board members earlier this week by Auditor Fennell. We made the decision to table at our last meeting, but I want to open the floor to see if there's any questions with respect to the budget and or see if we're ready to vote at this time to approve the budget. One update that we do have is that Auditor Fennell reached out to Steve Fricker, the City of Akron's Director of Finance, and for an update with respect to when the budget, whatever budget is approved by this board and presented to the city, that presentation and testimony to the city for consideration of the budget will take place the week of March 18th, I believe, but the exact date has not been assigned yet. And what that has looked like historically has been a handful of members from the board, along with Mr. Fennell, going to city council members just to present the budget, the rationale, which is in essence our ask for the city to approve our budget as we have presented it. And so that's the update from a process standpoint. But just want to open the floor to see if there's any questions, comments, concerns, and if not, see if we are ready to vote.
I have a question. Does that include the board compensation as well?
Yes. So the budget that is being that is on the table, which is the same budget that was presented at our January 21 meeting, does include and contemplate a increased stipend for board members, which would be increased from $100 per meeting to $500 per meeting for each board meeting. That does not include committee meetings.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, you give me some clarity on it. That does not include committee meetings?
So no, that is just for our monthly board meetings.
Anyone else have any questions? So this is obviously one of the March 18th meetings during the day that they're going to be having. Do you know what-
During that week. So that week will consist of each city department and the head of the various departments will come and present their budgets to city council for consideration. This is, I believe the city's operating budget has already been approved, but this is for the city's capital budget for consideration.
Is this a regular council meeting then on March 18th?
No, so this is.
What time is the meeting?
The meeting spans, so the capital budget meetings have not been finalized yet, and they're scheduled for it. They will take place during the week of sometime between March 18th and March 20th, from what I understand. We just know that date, March 18th, there will be budget hearings being taken place, which is the same day that we have a
Meeting.
monthly board meeting schedule. But we will send out, either Ms. Myers or Mr. Fennell will send out the date if board members would like to attend.
Okay, and the time and stuff then?
Correct.
That's all I'm trying to nail down, is what time and day.
Yeah, historically, we've been given a time, but some of the additional presentations can run long. So, I mean, in times past, it's been a couple of hours past the time. One year, we were right on point for the time for the board to present its budget and answer questions that any council members may have.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Costa? Okay, so do I have to make a motion on this? Yes. Okay, I make a motion that we approve the finance report,
Well, it would be specifically the budget.
specifically the budget, the full budget for the board? Yes. And is there a second? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I thought you were asking a question if it was the budget, okay. Mr. Weems? Mr.
Yes.
Krabs?
Yes.
Costa?
Yes.
Yes, Party Hopkins.
Ms. Elton?
Yes.
Anna Skevich, yes. Okay, the motion's passed.
Okay, that concludes the budget and finance portions.
Thank you, Mr. Costa, that was very thorough. Appreciate it. So we all basically just need to be on the lookout for an email.
Yeah, Mr. Fennell, can you hear me still?
Yes.
Appreciate you tracking the capital budget planning dates so far. Can you just be sure that board members have an update in terms of when the OPIA's/CPOB's date will fall onto?
Yes, as soon as I get that from Mr. Fricker, I will share.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fennell. Next, human resources. I don't have anything for human resources. Keisha, Ms. Myers, I don't know if you all are still, you and Mr. Fennell are still kicking around the idea of another assistant in your office, or anything like that? Or an intern or anything like that?
So I know the intern was selected and is currently going through the HR process. Mr. Fennell, do you have any updates on our intern?
I do not. I've reached out to the HR director, and my understanding is our selection is awaiting approval from the city. And so what that means exactly, I don't know. But that's been the last 2 times I've reached out. That's the response I've received.
Okay, thank you. We have no executive session as far as I know. Okay, so, the chairman's not here, he doesn't have any comments, but since I'm standing in for him, I do have a few comments. Not a few, one. One, I appreciate everybody being here, you know, and I appreciate everybody's patience tonight for, you know, technology. Technology is great when it works, but when it doesn't, it can be a disaster, and this was one of those cases. But there's always a plan B, you know, no matter what's going on, there's always a plan B, and I appreciate Ms. Myers, and I don't know the young lady's name who was the IT person, but I appreciate you guys' perseverance in trying to get Mr. Fennell online, and just trying to get all of us online with our speakers, and just trying to figure it all out, and you figured it out as well as you could, and I appreciate that. So, but it's kind of par for the course for what this board has gone through since its inception. We've always had an uphill battle with something, and tonight it was this. So, so that's really all I wanted to say, and I hope everybody has a good evening and enjoy the warm weather.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Second, Mr. Weems?
Yes.
We're making a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Krabs?
Yes.
Yes. Bernie Hawkins? Elton? Yes. Anna Skevich, yes.